McGrath comes in, it's on its way, it's there! The miracle on grass!
Owen with a kick to full forward, Lloyd, not quite, Blair, Collingwood, back in front.
The seed, he delays the give, Franklin, this is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman! Poor fans can't bear to watch. They led by 28 points at one stage, but the perfect storm has erupted. Oh, who else? McDonald!
Flagmantle is officially in full swing after 2 consecutive huge wins and a little bit of struggle for the Melbourne Demons. The most confusing rule in pretty much all of sports is getting that much worse with the AFL's new additions to it, or I guess subtractions to it, and they're not really saying a whole lot about it. The AFL is also having a bit of a crisis when it comes to attendance, but also that's what happens when you have 2 of the worst teams playing against each other, and it's about halfway through the season already, which is crazy on one point. Let's not focus on how quick the season is going by, because that'll just make all of us sad. But instead, let's point our attentions to the biggest standout stars in teams from the beginning of the season, who needs to really kick into second gear when it comes to potentially saving themselves in the back half of the season. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by the best in the business, Coach Donnie Hess. And it is time for us to break down everything round 12 of the AFL season. Coach, I'm sure you're feeling fantastic. Neither of our teams lost, but also only one of our teams won this round. How are you feeling after that big one for the Swannies?
Oh, it's just safe to say I will nothing myself. I put this on Twitter, and I'm not even gonna lie. Anybody that watched the last podcast, I was completely convinced myself there was no way the Swans would probably fall to the Dees this weekend. And let's just safe to say, after the Swans found a way to get a good 12-point win over the Dees, I had to go to the grocery store just after the game was over to get some things for the new refrigerator, and I was probably belting out the Swans song probably as loud as I have ever belted it out. I got at least a couple of people looking at me in cars next to us, just looking at me like, who is this guy?
Let's go, man.
So I totally nuffied out. It was absolutely ridiculous, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the fact that a tweet just mentioning how I'm an American fan actually exploded online, and I was actually shocked at how many people started following and started liking my tweets after that. So it was kind of a very fun weekend for me, as not only as a Swan supporter, but just a footy fan, because this weekend was absolutely fantastic.
Yes, it was.
With many games playing really, really well. Yes, we had a couple of clunkers, but when you get 4 out of 6 being absolutely fantastic footy games, that's a great weekend.
It's hard to complain
during the bye weeks.
Oh yeah, hard to complain about that. I have zero complaints about this round, because not only, like I said, the GWS Giants avoided losing. It definitely helped that they didn't have a game at all. But that's besides the point. And also, 6 for 6 for tipping and picking 2 is one good upset with the Swans, and then also tipping Geelong over the Doggies, where it looked like a lot of people weren't on that boat. I'm feeling good. 1 game behind Brad. He's still in the lead. But, I'm going to catch him. I'm going to catch him real quick, because I definitely have another. You guys know, if you've been here before, you know me and my tips. I promise you, 1 bold tip around, even if that comes at the risk of me looking like a jackass. Nonetheless, I still do that for you guys, because I love you. And I got a good one this round, okay? And I am actually pretty confident in the chances of winning this one as well, so you're going to stay tuned for that one. But before we get into our overreactions for the round, we got one more thing that also, before we get into that one more thing, I'm going to preface that with a couple of announcements. Of course, you check us out, all things footy, thefourthandlong.com/AFL. Check us out at thefourthandlong.com/apparel, because when it comes to footy gear, I got something new. I got something in the mail for myself. So once it finally comes in, I am going to show that all over this channel because you guys know, especially if you're first-time listeners, you might not know. If you even listen to one episode, you definitely know that I am a big fan of Cox. Mason Cox, that is. And I just had to, find a way to be able to show my love for him on the back of my shirt everywhere I go. So go ahead, check that one out. Like I said, over at thefourthandlong.com /apparel. And so you can become a nice, join me in our club of Cox lovers. I promise I'm not 12. Even though it might sound like it a lot.
I really don't know. So just insider information. I got to see the prototype of the new shirt that he is discussing. And it's just safe to say I'm getting one of these shirts. But I don't
Yes,
know
you
if
are.
I will ever wear it outside of the confines of my residence. We'll say it that way.
I am absolutely going to wear it outside the confines of my residence because, at the least it's good. Why I'm saying this way, at the least it's a good marketing gimmick because it might catch people's eyes. Probably, it's definitely going to do that, and it's also might be able to strike up a conversation as well. And I have zero problems when it comes to shilling myself out in terms of marketing and sponsorships. And just please watch the show. I love you guys. Go ahead, subscribe, follow on Instagram and Twitter at Fourth Long Media. Follow Donnie at Coach Hess 40 on Instagram and Twitter as well. And speaking about Coach Hess, it's time for this round's Hess's headlines. Coach, what you got for us?
Oh boy, so I had some fun with this because I thought let's make some of these headlines a little bit more like what you might see in the top of a newspaper headline. So we'll start off.
Ooh, going Victorian. I hate it.
With the one that I think a lot of people are like, I can't wait to hear how his response is going to be. And that's Swan Song sees a second loss for the mighty Dees as the Swans go down to the MCG and pick up a massive 12-point win over the defending Dees in a game that, quite honestly, was absolutely a fantastic game of football. The only thing that disturbs me, and we'll discuss this topic a little bit more, was the fact there was just not a crowd that I was expecting. I was expecting quite a crowd, even at the G, for this game, and it just did not materialize. And it's really interesting when a D's home game, and I swear the Swans fans were louder. It was kind of creepy to see it just a little bit, but man, oh man, was this an incredible game. Absolutely fantastic. And as I said in the last podcast, I said, keep an eye out because I have a feeling that without Buddy, you're going to see a progression of some of these young players and you're going to see an even distribution of goals.
And what do we see this round?
Sam Reed comes out of anywhere. Yes, please, somebody let Luke Darcy know it is not Ben Reed. It is Sam Reed, you flog.
Darcy.
He kicks 3 goals. Logan McDonald, the young rookie, the young second-year player, kicks 3 goals. Tommy Papley kicks 2 goals. Errol Goulden kicks a goal. I can't believe it that I'm starting to hear media people go, are the Swans actually better without Buddy?
Okay, now that's of course we all knew that was going to happen.
Here's the thing, though. I love this. I remember somebody saying this, and I completely agree with it. It's not that they're better without Buddy. It's that it is hard, and I said this in the last podcast, when you see Buddy leading, it is hard not to go to him. So in some situations, you're hoping Horst Longmire circles some of these and gets like, hey, yes, Buddy may be open, but sometimes there is an option that's better. So
Dude, but that's a funny thing because before this round's action, we were getting all sorts of like, oh, Swans can't win without Buddy. They're screwed. Go ahead, give up because they need Buddy to kick 5 goals a game for them to be successful. And now you get the headlines of, oh, the Swans don't even need Buddy. He's overrated. They're better without him. I just hate how man, if I could describe Victorian media, or just media in general, as a food, it would be a pancake, Donnie, because all they're doing is flip-flopping around and can't make up their damn minds round after round. Oh,
I'm not going to disagree with you because I can't tell you how many people 2 weeks ago after they lost their second game were like, well, the Swans are the vulnerable team. The Swans could be out. 2 wins against Richmond and Melbourne, and now all of a sudden the conversation is are the Swans a top 4 side?
That's what I'm here for, Donnie. The
conversation. It is fascinating, the flapjacks that these guys are flipping over and over. It is absolutely.
I just love being the resident, even over the Swan supporter himself. I'm the resident, like,
Here's the thing. If you listen to our podcast, you think you're the Swans Nuffy, and I'm the GWS
right?
fan that's just constantly super optimistic. That's super optimistic about
I love it.
teams. But here's the thing, and I tell a lot of people, is that I try not to be a homer. I really try not to.
You do a good job.
I try to base my tips off of what I see. And if you look at the Richmond game a little bit, there was some questions again, because you can't have a bad quarter against the Dees.
No.
And crazy enough, they did. They had a horrible first quarter, giving up 5 goals.
Well, see, it was the first, not the second, so it's fine.
You could tell on Swan's Twitter, there were people going, "Oh, this is not good. Like, this could get ugly before the second quarter." And the fact that the second quarter was when the Swans kind of really picked it up and kind of got themselves back in the game a little bit, really kind of flipped momentum. And I sat at halftime going, can I believe that the Swans won't be in this? Or is this one of those false premises, and the third quarter will be another, here we go again. So that was kind of the funny thing about this game, is it really was almost a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, because the first quarter had people, absolute sad faces, majorly in this one. And the second quarter saw a lift. Third quarter was kind of a meh. The Swans didn't damage the Dees, but the Dees really didn't do much back. And then the fourth quarter, the Swans, in prototypical fashion, just absolutely lit it up again. So it was another great game by the Swans. And again, the fascinating people is now people are talking about premiership, and I agree with what David King says. And again, Kingy and I haven't always agreed with everything he says. I almost think the Swans are a year early. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that they're in the flying contender this year. I just don't think they can get 4 finals wins with the inconsistency of contested footy. But if they continue to build and continue to get stronger and better in 2 years max, they're legitimately going to be a scary team if they can keep up their kicking and they can keep everybody healthy and on the park. It is a scary team what they did to Melbourne at times. They picked them apart. They Swiss cheesed that Melbourne defense, which most teams could not do.
Especially highlighting the ruck battle as well is one thing we were talking about heavy going into this game. Looked like the Swans got the best of that one as well.
The D's won it, but I think the Swans really evened out the center clearances more than I think most people thought they would be. Everybody thought if Gawn wins it, Oliver and Petrarca are going to have field days. Well, Rowbottom, Warner, and Parker really did kind of even out a lot of those center, because Gawn had the game of his life. There's legitimately no way we can argue that. He had the game of his life. 3 goals, 28 possessions. I can't remember how many hitouts. It was ridiculous. And Laddams was basically just trying to have so many of these. And Laddams didn't play a horrible game himself, so I'm going to give the guy a little bit of credit. He didn't play extremely great, but he did enough to make an impact when he needed to. So it was one of those, the midfield battle wasn't the tester. The tester was how much the Swans pressure caused turnovers, and the Swans made the Dees pay 55 points off turnovers. The Dees turned the ball, the Dees got turnovers, but only managed 5 points off turnover. So Swans won that percentage of points off turnovers by 50 points in this game. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then there was another stat I loved. David King keeps talking about. The Swans won in meters gained by almost 1,500 meters. It was almost 1,436 meters that they won by, meaning that's how much they had an advantage in this game. So it was absolutely insane that what happened in this game. Legitimately could not believe what I was watching. So I gotta give a tip of the cap to the Swans there. Logan McDonald coming out of nowhere, and Paddy McCartan, Tommy McCartan, the brothers. And I don't know if you saw the interview with Paddy McCartan, and where he almost tears out talking about the brotherly love that he has, and the fact that Tommy was one of the reasons he got over his concussion issues. Like, it's that other really good feel-good story of this season, besides Sam Doherty of the Carlton Blues coming back from testicular cancer. Like, it is another great story.
I'm just hoping we get Bobby Hill to come back as well.
Exactly.
Oh.
And again, that came out this week. And again, all our thoughts to him. Hopefully, a quick recovery there. So let's not waste all the time on that one. I don't want to seem
Let's
like a
move
homer
past the
because
Swans.
I'm going to go to one of the other teams that I've been high on that some people haven't been, and that's Fremantle. And I wrote this: Freo back-to-back wins has the flag feeling high at Flagmantle, which Justin Longviewer, for the coach for Fremantle, is not super high on the Flagmantle moniker. But I'll tell you this, there are a lot of people out west that are donning the purple that are really looking at this season going, we may have a chance. We'll have to see. Again, it's a long season, but the scary part about this Fremantle team is the fact they have done all of this without the two-time Brownlow medalist Nat Fife, who had a pretty good hit out at the Peel Thunder and is all set to come back this week, most likely in for Michael Frederick, unfortunately, due to a suspension due to drinking during the week, which there was another topic that will take away with that.
Stay off the alcohol, guys. Come on.
Kind of covers that one just a little bit. But Fremantle, again, beating a Brisbane team without Sonny Walters, no Nat Fife, no Matt Tabinet, and to beat Brisbane was a Herculean effort. Another great game. And I'm not sure if I'm going to put more questions on Brisbane or put more praise on Fremantle, because
Freo deserves some praise.
Showing a brand of football that is exciting. It is fun to watch. And I agree with many of my Fremantle cohorts. You have a lot of arguments to say Fremantle legitimately can be talked in the realm of premiership if they can keep this going. Again, do you want to peak now? No, I don't think you want to peak now. You want to peak, come closer to finals, which in some situations may see Melbourne be a little bit sneaky a little bit, that maybe they're having the lull at a right time, which is really weird to say, but we'll have to see.
You know, the great thing for Freo, too, is that realistically, if you take a look at what, management's expectations, ownership expectations, the way they've been rebuilding this franchise, if you will, they're fairly ahead of schedule at this point. I don't think anyone, at the top realms of team management was expecting a team to be this far into premiership contenders, into the season like this one. So that has to be a very promising light on that franchise.
Oh yeah, definitely. Club.
Oh, just wait till they make the playoffs.
Oh boy. Yeah, here we go. All right, on to the third headline. Sunday cracker between Collingwood and the Hawks. This Collingwood gets another big win, beating the Hawks by 4 in a game that had its share of fun, interesting talking points, especially the Jake Ginnivan free kick. Is it not? Should have been called. Should have been not. I don't want to get into that. Where they probably should have been called free kicks. Yes. Do I understand that sometimes he plays for free kicks in certain situations that makes legitimate free kicks not look like free kicks? So it's one of those that it's kind of come see, come saw. Like, I understand it's a skill. It's not easy to be able to put yourself in a place where you make the defender have to tackle you high to tackle you in the first place. So it's a fascinating conversation. I just don't want to get into it because I think people are making too big a deal out of it.
Yeah.
In the long run, if I'm a Collingwood supporter, if Collingwood loses that game, be up in arms. Okay, be up in arms. I can completely understand you being angry that the CJ Giath one. Yeah, that's a high. He tackled him over the shoulder. Should have been called. It wasn't called. Collingwood still gets the win. Okay, let's just be honest. I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. In Collingwood, they're not going to think about it. They'll say something on talk radio a little bit, but in the long run, they're happy. They get the 4 points. They beat a Hawthorn team that, again, they're going to test teams no matter the way this year goes. They're going to take some growing pains. They're going to take their lumps.
Yep.
Let's just be honest, Hawks fans. This year's going to be one of those. You're going to take some lumps this season, but I think you're building something there in Hawthorn with Tommy Mitchell at the coach. I think they are on the right path to get themselves back to where I think many Hawks fans think they can be very, very soon. But Collingwood, legitimately, I mean, you can talk finals because they're right in the crack.
Yeah,
but they're in a quagmire of teams that's going to be fascinating to watch.
I mean,
because you've got Richmond Tigers, Western Bulldogs, Gold Coast Suns, and Collingwood Magpies, and Port Adelaide Power, all 5 could potentially be fighting over that 8th and final spot.
You want to know one thing we're going to have to talk about a little?
Going the way they're going.
We're definitely going to have to talk about. I hope they stay in. I want to see both. It probably won't happen. Let's be honest here, just because of looking who's around the 8th spot. But I want to see Gold Coast and Collingwood both make it into the finals. That would be a good bit of fun, wouldn't it?
It'll be really fascinating. The biggest question we'll have to see is that does Carlton still bomb out? Because Carlton looks to be that team that we're just not sure how they're going to go in the 8, because they're in the 8 right now, but they have all those injuries. Yes, they draft Durden in the midseason draft, but is he going to be available this week? Probably he's not going to play this week. Teams are starting to come out, and it doesn't sound like he's going to play. Sounds like Melksham's going to come back after numerous ACL injuries, which is another great story to see. But I mean, 2 weeks ago, it was the Sydney Swans that was being discussed as that team that potentially could fall out with the Collingwood.
Not by me, of course.
We'll have to see. But right now, right now, do I see 2 teams falling out? It's hard, unless St. Kilda, Geelong, Carlton, Sydney, they're right all in that 32. I mean, between 4 and 7, it's all percentage. It is all percentage. And they are 2 games ahead of 9th place, the Western Bulldogs, 9th place, Western Bulldogs, Richmond Tigers, Gold Coast Suns. Port Adelaide is a game behind, but they've also played 1 less game. So if Richmond wins this week, Richmond will jump right back into that 8th position. So we'll have to see there. So
it'll
be really fascinating over the next few weeks, because with the bye weeks, it's going to be interesting. But once all the byes are done, it's going to be helter-skelter. The teams are going to be watching scoreboards a lot more, because it literally could come down to percentage to see who gets in to the finals.
Absolutely.
And for the 4th headline, we can't not talk about it. I'm hoping to make it really, really
talk
quick.
about a knockout of a story.
Holy shnikes, has everything changed in D-Land over the last 48 hours, as not only do they fall to the Swans, but now they have an in-house fight that leads to 2 players being suspended, one being Stephen May, the player that many people think is the one cog that Melbourne can't seem to be without over the last 2 rounds, and Jake Melksham, who in a drunken altercation led to Jake Melksham punching Stephen May and slicing his hand open to where he had to have surgery today. So not only are May and Melksham not playing this week, but the fact that now there's a rift amongst the club. And again, there's battling communications on that. I guess May was throwing out some stick to some of the players that were on the team but didn't play in the finals.
Yeah,
and
that was a hell of a quote. Apparently what he said to Melksham, we would have lost if you played.
There's conflicting reports
if that's
on
the one.
Because Max Gahn says he didn't think it was said. There's people that say that they have sources that particular sentence of we would have lost the grand final if you would have played. Of
course, he was the emergency list in that one. Yeah,
they didn't play in that. But it's just oh my gosh, it's just such a cluster, and this does kind of throw that. Is there going to be an internal rift in the Melbourne Demons? Is May's issues with drinking now? This is his 3rd violation over the last 8 years, 3rd drinking violation, and the 2nd time he's been punched by a teammate. The first time he actually had his jaw broken at the Gold Coast in 2013. So
and this tricky was because he was drinking while on concussion protocol, nonetheless.
The reason he was suspended.
Which is
suspended for the fight. He was suspended because he was drinking while under concussion protocol.
Which I guess it was either, if he wasn't drinking, they would suspend him for the fight, but the fight wouldn't happen. But they were going to get him for something. I saw this story, Donnie, and I couldn't do anything but laugh because this. Honestly, it's pretty funny. Come on, especially if that quote is true that he did say to Melksham, "We would have lost if you played." I was like, "Damn."
I don't know. I don't want to address that because Max Gahn came out and said he did that.
I trust Max more than any anonymous source you ever could.
Exactly. So I don't know, but all I know is the banter got so bad that Jake Melksham got sick of it and punched May. So there was something said that offended somebody. I don't know specifically. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But it did. I saw this come out and I went, ooh.
Boy.
Are the wheels falling off the Melbourne truck?
Gahn says no.
The Melbourne train a little bit early. We'll have to see again. Gon says he thinks they'll be fine. There'll maybe some things, and God, to Gon, congratulations! What a hell of a deal to step up and to be able to handle that as he did.
Gon's a masterclass, man. He is amazing at everything he does.
A proverbial tip of my cap to you, Max Gon.
Dude.
Incredible captaincy work there to do that. I mean, that was not an easy thing.
He the best captain in the league,
and he's there
when it comes to being a figure
in the conversation.
Well, I mean, Max is not only the player that captain should be, but he's the figure that, like, any club. There were guys. I got it right this time. Any club, it would be beyond happy just to have Max in hand. Not even disregarding his on-field play, but just the way he handles the team it's masterclass.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he handled it so well. I mean, there's no way to argue that he handled it absolutely as brilliantly as he possibly could under a situation where you never want to be him in that situation. You don't want to be that guy having to address something as damning as it was, to be quite honest. So again, I don't like discussing this. Unfortunately, I don't think this is over. I think there's still more details to come out. And this is a watch and see, because the Queen's birthday match on Monday now just got more interesting. No Stephen May now. Collingwood, they're licking their chops going, can we get the Dees and send the Dees into their bye round with 3 consecutive losses?
You know what? I don't think that's totally off the page. It's just wait and see when we get to our tips, because, of course, I got you with my patented, bold tip of the round. That's it's like 60% of the time it works out every time. I think it's more like 20% of the time it works out every time. But, when I get it right, I look like a genius, and we just don't talk about it when I get it wrong. But going off the headlines, let's go into a few things that might be overreactions, or actually, according to some of the stuff we're just talking about, might be right on the money, because it's time to overreact to round 12 of the AFL season. For those that don't know how the segment works, I got 3 statements for Coach Donnie here, and it's up to him to determine if it's an overreaction or if there's actually some truth to it. And starting us off, we're going to go sticking to the D's. Why not? Because it's a whole lot of fun to talk about. Obviously, what we just talked about is that they are in a bit of a slump, to say the least. They've not necessarily looked bad the last couple rounds, but they also have not looked like the team that they really should be. So, with that being said, Don, I know there's a lot of people already just want to totally ruin the D season. They're totally over. Even for me, there's people actually putting out published articles on this. And even for me, I thought that was too much of an overreaction to put on my overreaction segment, so that I can let you know my thoughts on how stupid I think they are. But statement number 1, the D's aren't a top 4 team. Overreaction or not?
For me, this is still an overreaction, because on their day, and I've stated it several times in the podcast, I don't think the D's have played their best footy yet. They still have not. Legitimately have not. They have not played the D's footy that they played last year. And hearing some of the statistics, it's proven. They are not playing the same footy this year. They have been in autopilot for those first 10 games, and Fremantle and Sydney have literally rocked them, because they can't autopilot and then pick it up and go into the finals on a hot streak.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's not happening. I still think the D's are a finals team. I still think the D's are a top 4 side, because they had such a big lead. They had a 2-game gap between them and Brisbane and Fremantle for the longest time, that they're just now coming back to the pack. They've still got a game lead on Brisbane. So I still think they're going to be in 4, because I don't think they're going to lose. I don't think they're going to drop enough games to get out of the 4.
Because they probably have to drop it's probably 4 games realistically.
At least half of their final 8 games, which is at least 4, if not 5. And then you got to have at least 1 or 2 teams win almost all of their games. And the mire that is the middle of this table just makes me think that's not going to happen. I think the worst I think Brisbane ends up being is 2nd. And it's weird saying that, as struggling as they've been, but once May comes back, I think some of these defensive issues, the question is, they have to fix their front half. Their front half has absolutely been atrocious. And the fact that Goodwin plays Mitch Brown instead of Wiedemann makes me think there's some kind of issue with Wiedemann a little bit when it comes to confidence or something, because a guy that was potentially a premiership level player is having to play in the 2s, and a often fringe player Mitch Brown plays in a game against the Swans, it makes you think, is there an issue when it comes to it? And Ben Brown has been nowhere near the footy. I mean, he can't find it with a GPS monitor on his face. It's going. And the thing is, I had a few discussions with a few people. I don't think Brown's playing bad. It's just he's not getting the service that's best for him, because teams are taking him away because he doesn't have Tommy McDonald, who is a guy that could kind of take a top tier defender away from Brown, give Brown a second or third style defender. And it's like right now the Dees just don't have another option. Tommy McDonald most likely is done for the season, and it's thrown this front half for a loop. Bailey Fritsch is not a marquee forward. He's not. He's a crumbing mid forward. He gets open. He'll kick a few goals, but he's not that leading target type of forward. Kazi Pickett is your crumbing guy. He's the guy that wants to get the crumbs off of the big pack mark attempts. So they're not marquee level leading forwards that are going to get marks inside 50. So right now the Dees just can't find what was making them so good last year. They've lost it. I don't know how they're going to get it back, how they're going to get Ben Brown back up to what he was doing towards the end of the year when he kind of solidified their forward half. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions. Can the Dees fall out of the top 4? Oh yes, they can. I mean, this could turn into a train wreck and they could fall apart like North Melbourne a few years in 2008 or 2010 when they went 10-0 and then barely made the finals because they went 4-6 or something to end the season. No, it was 4-8 to end the season. They just barely made the finals. So sometimes going 10-0 does not always quantify that you are guaranteed into the finals. So the Dees are going to have to kind of find their mojo a little bit, throw some magnets around, move some people around, and see if that kind of solves their problem, because right now they are, I don't know. I can't find the appropriate words to talk about this team. Now, again, maybe May comes in and all problems solved. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, I think the Dees are a top 4 side. I don't see them falling off. So,
but you know the great thing about this, to your point where they kind of are coasting, it's easily safe to say that their best game that they've played in the last 13 games was their grand final against the Doggies, where in that game they looked remarkable and they peaked in that season. They definitely have not looked as good since. There's also, a chance, a little bit of a, they talk about the championship hangover that, teams in pretty much every professional sporting league go through at times. There's a little bit of that, but also it's also, I guess the bright side here, if you're a Dees fan, they have 2 losses. There were 2 losses in close games to 2 of the best teams in the league. So if you're going to take any solace in their downs right now, they're only losing to the best. It's not like they're just having, crap games against middle to below average teams. They're losing to some of the best teams, some of the best and most talented teams in the league. So if you're going to lose to anyone, losing to Sydney and Freo is not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not like they're losing to North Melbourne and the West Coast. Now, if that happened, then it would be an all totally different conversation.
Even if they lose to GWS, that still would be a pretty bad loss there. But speaking about Fremantle and going over what Donnie, the pessimistic GWS, it does not sound like I'm a GWS fan, but or maybe that's why it sounds like I'm a GWS fan, is because I can't be excited about anything. But let's get to the next one here. Speaking about Flagmantle, let's get into it. Because, Donnie, as of right now, gotta say it, after knocking off the Dees, knocking off the Lions, Fremantle is now clearly the flag favorites.
Oh, boy. It just purely off, like if we just said right now.
Right now.
This is not an overreact. Like right now, at this very moment, no Melbourne games being played the rest of the season. Yes, it is hard to say that this is not an overreaction. You just beat Melbourne. You just beat Brisbane.
You got Nat 5 coming back this round too. Oh boy,
and that's the other thing I was just about to say. You've got a 2-time Brownlow medalist coming in off a waffle appearance. He didn't look too bad again.
And what they're saying is a different Nat 5 as well, which I'm super excited to see.
Well, not totally, because he gets 3 kicks on goals and all 3 are behind. So not everything is.
Maybe
we'll have to see.
I'm going off what they're saying, I guess. I don't know.
He's got to find the radar and kick goals if he's going to go forward, or he is going to be a negative. And I hate saying that. I really do.
Yeah.
So it'll be fascinating. It'll be fascinating to see how that goes. But no, I just and in overall in the season, they are. I think this is an overreaction overall because the Dees again. When Stephen Make, how does the team change?
The Dees still have to be the betting favorites at this point.
Until the Dees are out out of the finals and eliminated. There is hard not to say that they're still not the flag favorites.
Exactly.
It's weird saying again.
They have the best list. They're the defending champs. It's hard to bet against them on a perfect day for either team or for any team that plays up against them.
100%.
I agree with you.
So it's like I said, right now, currently, just off what we know now, this is not an overreaction. As a season's total, because there's still season to go, I would say overreaction. But I don't think it's as much as an overreaction as it was 2 weeks ago.
No.
Like, you would have said this 2 weeks ago after the atrocious losses that they had in 2 wet weather games against two teams that, as we're starting to see, are not bad footy teams.
Exactly. So Frio fans, do yourself a favor and only listen to the good parts where this is not an overreaction. I love the Flagmantle craze, man. This is great.
I am loving their excitement. I am loving how good their team is going. And if Sydney can't get there, I will jump on the Freo bandwagon. You have me quoted there. I will say it. I will bear for Freo if Sydney gets knocked out of the finals if they're still there, because I love the Freo team. This Freo team is exciting to watch. They're an absolute blast. We'll have to see. But
and Donnie, I'll join you on that
think
one.
We're a little early.
I'll join you if Sydney drops out of the finals or it loses in the finals and Freo's still there. I will go to Freo. And because man, you really think I would just be a Sydney fan, but I living by the traditions. I picked a team. Unfortunately, it's GWS, and I'm going to stick with them. Damn it, no matter how much heartache and headache as well that causes. But speaking about the old GWS, wish you can go back. I swear I'm not jealous when I say that I am happy that Geelong has Jeremy Cameron. I'm happy that he's doing well over in Geelong. I think I hate that trade, but is what it is. But statement number 3, speaking about Jeremy Cameron, Jezza just kicked his 500th goal in a 6-goal game. I think he's now up to 502 on his career, or is it 504? I think it's 504 actually. He has 504 through 9.5 seasons of his playing career. But with that being said, Donnie, you know something about 1,000-goal kickers. Jeremy Cameron is going to break 1,000 goals. Or maybe here, let me rephrase it. Jeremy Cameron can break 1,000 goals. Does that change anything?
It's not an overreaction if he can, because anybody can.
Okay, technically, okay. Let's screw the can then. He will.
I'm gonna. Unfortunately, I'm gonna kind of Swiss cheese this a little bit, really, really badly. His affinity for getting injured, especially lower body injuries, aka hamstrings, calf muscles, makes me really think this is a difficult ask, because he is 29 years old. I had to look up how old he was. He is 29 years old, and he started in 2012. So he's 10 years into his career. Buddy at 10 years was probably closer to 700 or 800 goals. So he's got an advantage a little bit over him. Now, again, that's what I look at it. Buddy had a 100-goal season. Unfortunately, Jeremy Cameron has the closest he's gotten
72.
Like 65, 70.
I think it was 72. Yeah.
So that's still 28 less goals. So that's 28 less goals than he has in one season. So that's
a tough thing, man. If you go through his career stats, take a look at games played, and then take a look at goals. But if we're going off of not goals per season, but goals average per game, I would probably bet that they're pretty similar between him and Buddy, or at least closer than the other margin would be.
Yeah, I'd have to look at a goals per game if I see correctly. I'm just trying to pull it up on a thing. It looks like about 3.2, and I think Buddy's is closer to 5. So it's up there. I don't know. I stated it around 1,000 goals. Until the league kind of reverts back to man-on-man defense,
which will
or
never
unless you get guys that are going to be able to just boss games, which, I mean, you've had some boss situations.
Cameron's just been doing that this year. Man, what a start he's had.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's very, very interesting. I have a struggle. I just have a hard time seeing him do it unless
Understandably.
Again, he's 10 years in, which means he's going to have to play another 10 years, and he's going to have average 50 to 60 per to get there. And that is difficult. I mean, he's only at 500 now, and he's halfway through 20 seasons. So, I mean, that's basically 50 goals a year to do that. So that's not simple.
No.
Would I love to see it? Yes. Do I think he's got an opportunity to do it? Yes. But Tommy Hawkins is 34 years old. He's only 5 years older, and he's only 200. He only has 200 more goals than Jeremy Cameron does. And he's played more seasons and had less injuries than Jeremy Cameron has. So that's the math. The math makes it very difficult.
That's the only thing I bag on.
That's the way I'll state it there. The math makes it extremely difficult.
I think the only way you could really justify this is like, oh, he's just been injured. But, if he honestly, hypothetically, he, only misses a couple of games a season, that totally changes his chances of doing this. It would be cool to see, shout out to former GWS. Once a Giant, always a Giant. The Giants have a 1,000-goal kicker. Absolutely. I would love to see that. I'll take any credit I could get for this team right now. But let us know your thoughts. That's going to do it for our overreaction. So, is Jeremy Cameron going to even come close to kicking 1,000 goals? Is it time to fully hop aboard the Flagmantle hype train? And are the Dees in trouble when it comes to their finals positions? But before we get to what the blanket subsequently the team of the round for Coach Donnie, I teased it earlier. We got to go into it because, it might be the 4th round, 5th round. I don't know. Every round we're talking about this because it's time for your guys' favorite subject in all of footy, umpire dissent. Oh no, I put my hands up. Let me hold my hands below my desk.
50 meters.
I guess I can't talk for 50 seconds is what we're doing. Oh boy. So the umpire dissent rule might be on paper. It's getting better for the players and the fans, but also might get worse at the same time because even more gray area is pumped into already beyond gray rulebook that the Australian Aussie rules is played by. But so what's happening now for those that are unaware is that we'll put into quotes. So the AFL is recalibrating the definition of dissent and coach umpires to tolerate a level of player emotion immediately after a decision. And this is where the more gray comes in, as long as they displayed restraint. So, on paper, kind of like I was saying, I am all for this rule. If you have a guy, it's, get caught in emotion, throw his hands up, but doesn't assault the ref or really try to yell at him or get anything and change. It's just a quick reaction, and then, they don't really try to, argue with the ref the umpire. I'm going to get destroyed this episode. Damn. But as long as, they're not doing anything to harm the umpire, to, berate the umpire or anything like that, I don't see a problem with it. If it's just hands up and, go back down, I really don't think that should be 50. And apparently the league is trying to make some changes because players haven't been happy. The umpires have been getting, put in a bad position. The fans clearly haven't been happy. The only problem with this, though, is that I think it's a good change they're making, but how they're announcing the change is not great because, especially Jack Rewell, he suggested that some players that, especially ones that avoid the footy media, which not a bad idea, especially for in Victoria, they're pretty blindfolded by this news because apparently from the players themselves, the league has done a bad job with their communication regarding with this rule and other sort of umpiring as well. So your thoughts on this rule change, and also why you think the AFL would be doing a better job at telling their players about the rules they're putting into their game, right?
Okay, I went off on this because I found so many people complaining about this online, and again, I understand why people were losing their minds over it. Okay, I really do. But I liked the rule because I thought it brought in something that hadn't been there, and that was a little bit more respect. Now, there was a ton of people, they were kind of trying to flip this. It's like, we got thin-skinned umpires that no, they're doing what they're told. They're not trying to
The
stuff up the
umpires did
game.
not make this rule. The league made this rule.
Again, this is where the messenger gets shot a little bit more.
A little bit more than a shot. They got shot, beat, burned, thrown to the river. It has been pretty.
Exactly. So I think that's kind of one of those. I look at it and I go, oh boy. So it'll be very interesting. I liked the rule. Did I like how it was fully umpired? No. Like I'll legitimately tell you, there were times that the word demonstrative was nowhere even close to what was happening, and it was called. So I understand the change. Do I think that all this does is make a grayer matter even grayer? Yes, because again, this is only going to confuse. It's one of those many, when I have discussions with fans about umpiring, it's like, I understand you're frustrated, but a lot of your argument, you literally negate your argument because it's how you see it. It's not how the umpire sees it. The umpire is in a completely different situation. You are sitting on your couch, or you're sitting in your seat. You don't get the close-up. You don't see what he's seeing and how he's seeing it. You see it through a certain camera lens, or for some people, a certain eyeglass lens. So that's why I kind of look at it and I go, I've been trying as best as I can to not really even discuss how it's gone. In fact, I've even went out of my way to basically kind of take away their argument, because as I noticed many of the times, well, this 50, why did they call it? And 99.9% of the games, did that 50 affect the outcome of the game? No, it didn't. Very few of them ever did. Like, as I went through, a majority of the controversial ones that went off, and again, I'm not trying to get very frustrated with this, but I've said this, and I'm going to say it again. 90% of your controversial 50s that you were screaming about always went to a team that won.
Yep.
The team that got it was the team that won the game. Harris Andrews gets it. Brisbane Lions win the game. It's like, stop complaining about something that did not change the outcome of the game. Did it affect the game and change maybe how the game ended? Yes, 100% agree with you. I'm a Swans fan. Was the Chad Warner 1 of 50? No, it wasn't. Was it the reason the Swans lost? No, they gave up a 9-goal quarter in that second quarter. Was that part of the 9 goals? Yes, but it wasn't the only reason. So I don't understand the whinging. Like, legitimately don't understand it. Do I think that they are changing it to kind of make it a little bit less of an issue? Yes. I think they're tired of getting roasted online by a combination of the media, the fans, and the players, that the AFL finally said, you know what, we're just stuff it. I'm done fighting it. Let's just change it.
Yep.
Here's the thing. I'm going to say this, and I heard somebody say it, and I agree with it. No, don't change it. Don't change it. Don't change it until next off season. Why? Because everybody's already doing it. And I'm going to point this fact out. Most people, yes, we only had 6 games. How many descent 50s did we have this week? None. 0.
That's the only reason.
Nil.
One of the only reasons
Nada.
it wasn't
Yes.
the news more.
Was this a final? No. And I get that argument. I really do. But the players have figured it out. Okay. They figured it out. And we had several games that were tight, but we did not get any descent penalty. We did not get any descent 15 meters. So for me, this is such an overblown issue that is not as big a problem as people want it to be, because it has not changed a game yet. I say yet because it still could, because I do agree with, yes, it's an emotional game. Yes, I understand that. Yes, these players aren't robots, but these players are smart. They can figure stuff out. They are not idiots. They are not meatheads. They study the game. They'll have figured it out by the time we get to the finals. Do I understand that an emotional situation could change a game? Yes, it could. But as of right now, very few of these 50s have actually changed a game significantly enough to make me go, not sure if I like this rule.
Exactly.
Again, we've still got plenty of footy, but they've changed it now. So here's going to be where how do we see how this goes? This is like changing the shot clock in the middle of an NCAA basketball season.
Yeah, I think
to see how.
if I had to speculate why
it'll be interesting.
Why they made this change, why they made it now, among other reasons, I think there might be a couple of guys up there be like, man, it might not have cost a game yet. What if it does, or let alone what if it costs a finals game? Then that is going to that's going to have a giant impact. All right, backlash from fans, from players, from maybe even other executives. But if the thing is,
have a reason to change it.
Exactly,
That's
but
my
I think
point, though.
no, I totally understand your point. I'm just speculating here. Is that I think their mindset is that they're just trying to get ahead of it.
They're trying to do damage control.
Exactly. So I obviously I agree with you, but I think that this is what the league is trying to do. They're trying to just put out they're trying to water the grass before it catches fire. You know what I mean? So which is fair. If that is why. Also, it won't surprise me if they just kind of put this up to a coin toss and went with head. So yeah, we'll change it mid-season. Either makes perfect sense to me in my head.
Like it sometimes doesn't it? It really does. And again, I am not envious of the Scott brother that's running this, because he's literally between a rock and a hard place. Because if he doesn't change it, he's still got to deal with all the drama. But now that he changes it, the issue he's going to run into is the fact is that there could be one that could change a game later on in the season. We'll have to see. Does the umpire that's there deem it demonstrative?
Oh, that's another thing, Donnie. Great point. It's not the league's fault if this goal. It's on the ref or it's on the umpire. The umpire is going to get all the blame, totally shifted to him. Perfect scapegoat. Round of applause for the league. Genius.
I don't like doing that, because I feel horrible for the umpires, because this is a no winner for the umpire. I mean, again, umpiring, it's a no-win job, like legitimately a no-win job. So I stated it online, and I'll continue to state it. Even if the Swans lose a game because of an umpire decision, you will never see me complain about it, because again, I've done the job. I know the job.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to complain about it, because it's a fool's argument. And I've stated it many times, and I think it's getting bad. Like, especially over here in the States, I'm tired of these stories of parents and coaches and even players abusing these umpires, and I just feel horrible for them. And my favorite argument is I just want to grab a whistle. I want to find the person that's, pardon my French here, bitching the most. I want to throw a whistle at him and go, you go do your job. You go do it. Since obviously you know better than everybody, you go do it. Because then you want to know what I would do? I'd go sit in the stands and I'd give them that much abuse, just as much, to make them understand it's not as simple as you think it is, buddy. It really isn't.
No.
Sit down, especially if you're a parent.
Sit down. Parents ruin youth sports.
Shut up.
I will live and die by that.
Cheer
as a player, as a coach.
Cheer for their team. Other than that, shut up.
Parents are the worst part about youth sports. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Unfortunately, it's our society. And legitimately, it's our society. Our society has made it to where winning and the money that is in sports, especially here in the States, it's not. I don't think it's as bad over in Australia. Which again, Australians, thank God, you at least have somewhat sane parents a little bit. It's not perfect. You still have some issues. I mean, unfortunately there's dickheads everywhere, so that's going to happen. But the societal change on that everything is about winning, it just does my head in. Because as a youth coach that I coached basketball over here in the States for 10 years, I have never, ever, ever been so annoyed with parents at times when they come to the game and all they're doing is whinging about the umpiring. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're here to watch your child. There's no state championship for 7th grade basketball. Let them enjoy the game while they can.
Enjoying the game, Donnie? No, that's dumb.
When you get into high school, because you got the state championships to potentially play for. I'm just like, oh my God, it does my head in.
What a horrible idea, Donnie. Talking about actually, enjoying the game.
Sanity is such a bad thing.
Stupid. Unbelievable. I don't know why I even have you here for your horrible, horrible opinions. But going from one thing, that the league is absolutely worried about, let's talk about another, because it's time for what the blank. I know Dees fans and Swans fans were saying this repeatedly, both for the, sometimes for the same reasons, sometimes for the complete opposite of reasons as well. Some out of joy, some out of hate, and I am not surprised by that one. But it's time for What the Blank. Donnie is going to fill in the blanks. I got 3 statements for him, and it's time to fill, and he'll be able to fill in the blank with whatever he chooses. Could be a word, a phrase, could be a whole sentence. It's all up to him. But one of the big issues that the league is facing, especially highlighted in this round between the game between one dumpster fire and the other one where a dumpster that is just not on fire yet, is the GWS Giants heading on to Marvel Stadium to take on the North Melbourne Roos. Oh, I am only excited for this because the Giants actually have a good chance of winning. I'm not going to say great chance. I just say good. Oh, boy. But they're worried about less than 9,000 fans showing up for this game, which is, it's not great. But with that being said, statement number 1, Donnie, the AFL can blank to increase fan attendance.
Oh boy.
Yeah, how's that for a loaded answer?
If this is just a magic wand that they could wave and magically, I don't think there's, honestly, I'm going to say nothing. I don't think there really is anything AFL can do. It's the venues. The venues, and again, I know inflation is going nuts. Gas prices are going up. Food prices are going up. It's an international issue, okay? I just don't know if there's anything they can magically do it, because it's going to cost somebody money in the long run. I mean, go on the venues, make ticket prices cheaper. Well, that makes sense, but then again, no, how does a place make money, or does a club make money?
Especially after the last couple of years, those venues were not doing well in terms of ticket sales.
Exactly. You have food shortages, you have food price hikes, you have all these issues. I don't know if there's anything that the AFL really can do. Because, I mean, there's going to be games that are dead rubbers. There are going to be games nobody wants to go to besides the fans, and even some situations, even their fans don't want to go.
All right, let's go with perfect scenario then. Perfect world, perfect situation. What would be the one thing you do if you could do it?
Oh, if you could do it, make ticket prices cheaper, make food cheaper, make parking inexpensive.
Yep.
Make it as inexpensive as possible, and find any way that you can to make and improve the fan experience.
Meat pies per goal of the home team. Free meat
dollar meat pies, dollar snags, dollar beers.
Yes,
that brings people in. The issue is financially, it's just not an option.
Can't afford that.
The issue I see with this so much is that it's not that.
So you think it just comes down to finances? That's like the big one there?
Well, again, this GWS North game, it's just such a dead rubber, because GWS is a club that, especially in Melbourne, people just don't want to go see.
No. If this was in maybe the SCG, I could see a decent turnout, because, hey, GWS fans, you might be able to see a win here, or even like Giant Stadium or something like that. But
if it was up in Sydney, you'd probably get a better fan base, because you got probably a majority of the GWS fan base in New South Wales. So I'll give you that. North is, again, running like a dumpster fire now. They've got issues with their top kid and Jason Horn-Francis. It's just not going well. So that's just, you just have a game where you're going to see low attendance. But I'm going to bring this topic up a little bit. I've seen this brought up a lot, is the mediocre crowd that was at the Melbourne-Sydney game, which, again, I will give it, there are a few fans that I know, a few supporters that I know of on both sides, both Melbourne and on Sydney, said it was awfully cold that night. And I 100%.
What's awfully cold for Australia? Like 30 degrees?
Like 35.
35. Okay.
Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have no idea what Celsius is.
Celsius. That's cold, but I'm one of those. It's like, maybe it's the American fan in me. It's like Green Bay fans show up when it's -10.
It's the Iowan. It's the Idahoan here. It's like, I've been to football games where it's 10 degrees outside, and you just put on a thicker coat.
And again, we're a different breed. We're nuts. Okay.
Even especially you guys in Iowa, it gets freaking cold there. You don't even need me to tell you. We don't get blizzards like you guys do.
I've told a few of my Australians, I said there are several times this winter it was -3 or 4 for the entire day Celsius, and a couple of them looked at me and goes, "How do you live?" And
hey, for us, it was below freezing until May. It was great.
And I said, if it gets cold enough, I said, you just don't go outside very long.
Yeah.
I said, if you go outside, you don't go outside and stay outside for more than about 15 minutes. I said, that plain and simply, you kind of learn the little tips and the tricks. You layer your clothing, you warm your car up a lot. So There's plenty of things, but I look at it, that is almost depressing that top of the table clash versus a top 8 side.
Up to this point, arguably the best game of the year, the biggest game of the year.
And you only get 32,000 at it, and I hate saying it, I'm thinking 17 of the 32,000 were South and Sydney fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had several friends that said almost every flight going down to Sydney was full of Swans fans that were going down to the MCG to see the game. So it was kind of fascinating to me to see, again, a game at the G, where do you think Melbourne, I mean, you just won a flag, you're 10-1, you got a great team, and they didn't show up. And I know several Melbourne fans that went to the game and got pictures, and thank God for them. Kat Oxley, I love you so much. Thank you for the pictures from your stands. And I think she kind of got a kick out of it. I was chatting with her after the game, and I was still complimenting her team even after the game was over. And she's like, I don't know if I can follow you with a couple of these. And I go, I understand, but I've been on your side. I've been on.
I know exactly
the upset loss that you're just not expecting. So you're trying to pump them up again. I don't think Melbourne's as bad, but it is a little disheartening to see a top of the table team having trouble getting fans in. And then you look at the Collingwood Carlton game where you got Carlton's kind of on the rocks, Collingwood there, but not so great. And they get 80,000. I mean, again, those are two of the biggest clubs in the country.
I was about to say they have two remarkable fan bases. Yeah.
But it is rather discouraging that so many Melbourne fans came out last year when they were in the hunt for the flag, and this year they got a chance to go and they're not going. And again, I know there's still COVID issues, there's flu situations, it's cold. I understand there's plenty of things there, but that is frustrating that you get a top of the table, two top 8 sides, and you can't even get 50,000. So that, I think, is the most frustrating, is because there's no rhyme or reason to all of the fans' numbers coming to the game. So we sit there and we go, we kind of scratch our heads, not 100% sure why. So I don't really think there's anything the AFL can do. They just got to hope the venues make a few changes that maybe will get people through the doors.
Absolutely.
Again, I've heard tons of people, the umpiring is the reason I'm not going. Honestly, and this is no disrespect, bye.
Yeah.
We don't need
that's
if
kind of a
so
lame reason.
If you're so easily discouraged from the product, bye.
You know what? And Donnie,
need to be me.
I just be taking guess at a good majority of those people that would say that aren't going to the game anyway, and they're just trying to make a statement on Twitter because that's what they do. But going into the second statement, and honestly, I'll give this up to you, good or bad as well. I'll give you that to go off of. Blank is the biggest surprise team at the halfway point.
Oh, I like how you gave me the out for two.
I got you.
Actually, I think I'm gonna go with one each. For my biggest surprise, especially just ladder position, that's Fremantle. I knew they had a chance of being in the finals,
but top 4.
I expected them just barely get in 7th place, maybe 6th place. I knew they had the talent to be able to get there because they built from the defense out, which I think is the best thing to do.
Defense wins championships. Hell yeah.
Exactly. And the coaching, but I was not expecting top 4.
But a solid top 4 as well. Like, they were a legitimate top 4 club.
Well, they're only percentages behind Brisbane when it comes to second. So that's how tight this is.
Not even 5, 4.1 percentage points to be exact.
Exactly. And and like I said, that's the thing there. And then my biggest disappointment again, maybe I jumped on the bandwagon, maybe I was a little bit.
I know who you're going with
last season, and that's Essendon.
Yep.
And I hate saying that because I still think the Bombers, but they're whatever fire that they had last year, it has been extinguished, and they just can't seem to find a way to dry this wick enough to get that light restarted. They just have not been able to find it. West Coast, I had a feeling this was going to happen.
You might have a different perspective on this, Donnie, when it comes to the Dons. Or at least over the last handful of rounds. I don't feel like they're being crapped on like in the media like they were maybe earlier in the season. I feel like is a fan base we've almost gotten used to them and just accepted them being bad. Are we back there already? Like, have we gone super high on the Dons to all the way down to them to back to medium just because no one cares?
I'm I'm gonna state it like this, and this is kind of morbid. The fact that North Melbourne and West Coast are so
Just that
atrocious
bad.
is the only reason why Essendon is not one of the top stories when it comes to
Essendon, say thank you to the North and West Coast.
And it's sad to say. And I remember when I talked to Jude Bolton, he came up with this. He said West Coast was his biggest disappointment, and I stated it. I said maybe I'm Nostradamus, but I kind of saw this coming. I didn't like their training camp. I didn't like what they were coming into. Jack Darling deciding 3 weeks before the season starts to finally, oh yeah, I'm vaccinated. So there was so much wrong.
Some red flags. Yeah.
Came into this season. And I agree with it. Like, they folded up their tents and they took their ball and went home. Like, they're showing up and they're there.
They're playing for their contract.
They're not there.
They're playing because they're contractually obligated to play, and that's about it.
And that's the sad part about the West Coast Eagles.
That's what I'm saying. At least with North, it looks like they have an ounce of effort out there.
But the problem is they've been so ravaged by all of their list changes.
It's not good.
And they're talking about asking for a priority pick, and I kind of agree with it 1%. Why would you give them a priority pick? They did this to themselves. They've dropped 20. They've delisted 21 players in the last 2 delisting cycles. Are you kidding me?
That sounds like me running my fantasy team. Ain't no way you should be able to do that in the real team.
But this was only at the end of the year. This wasn't round by round.
Oh, good point.
That's how crazy it is. Half of their list has been delisted over the last 2 seasons. That's how crazy this is. So if I'm an Essendon fan, like, it's weird to say it, but the only reason Essendon is not the number one topic each week, because of where they are on the ladder and where they were last year, is because West Coast and North Melbourne are playing hold my beer and who can play worse. Like, it is insane how this is happening. West Coast loses by 50. North Melbourne, hold my beer, loses by 68. West Coast the next week plays hold my beer, I'm going to lose by 110. Like, that's literally the way this season has gone. It's sad to say it. And
at least there's excitement between these two teams. It's not excitement for the right reasons, but it's exciting to see, who's going to be worse this round. It's
they are literally playing hold my beer. And again, West Coast North Melbourne fans are listening to this. I'm not trying to take the mickey out of your teams, but it's sad. But the only thing that kind of could comfort you as either of those fans is, you got another team that's just as bad. I think that's the only thing again.
Oh man,
like it is really, really kind of funny. And then you look at it, and then you kind of go the opposite a little bit with the finals. It's like I literally sit here in the ladder and I go, well, we're already down to, I think there's only 12 teams vying for the A spots. It's already down to 12.
Yeah.
And the worst part is Port's sitting in this little this purgatory over the next 3 weeks of playing Richmond, Sydney, and let me pull it up real quick. It's like Richmond, Sydney, and I think St. Kilda, I think, is the next one after that. So it's like Port Adelaide in the next 3 weeks could be out of the finals if they lose all 3. And yeah. Richmond, Sydney, Gold Coast, Fremantle are their next 4 games. Richmond at the MCG, at home at the Adelaide Oval versus Sydney, at home at the Adelaide Oval versus the Gold Coast Suns, and then at Optus Stadium in Freo.
Dude.
Those next 4 games, like, legitimately, if I'm Port Adelaide, you have to get out of this 4-game set at least 2-2.
Yep.
You have to. If you go 1-3 or 0-4, it is over.
It's over.
And I hate saying that about a Port team that is super talented, probably a finals team. They had that absolutely atrocious first 5 games of the season where they went 0-5.
Dude, that's what happens. 20 points is a large margin to lose out on, from the start.
And it doesn't get much better. Next week, yes, they play GWS, which most likely is a win. Again, I know GWS. But then, how do we go after GWS? Melbourne, Geelong, Collingwood, Richmond. If I'm a Port Adelaide fan right now, I am absolutely in terror.
The schedule makers were not kind with that stretch. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude.
You don't then get any reprieve until round 22 where you play Essendon, and then you have your last game of the season, a last season showdown against the Adelaide
It's going to be
Crows.
even worse when the mighty GWS Giants also beat them as well. They're going to be the worst matchup on that. Oh my gosh!
So tomorrow's
That's
game
tough.
is almost it's almost a finals or bust game for Port, and I hate saying that. I really, as early in the season as it is, you gotta get this win because you can't go into that game against Sydney being 8 points out of the finals. You can't. You absolutely cannot. So, oh boy.
I'm excited. Maybe one team worse than the Giants. Hopefully, it'll be Port Adelaide somehow. Although I doubt it. They're even, Giants just suck. I don't know why I keep on back. I need to stop bagging on the Giants so much. Like, honestly, it's becoming an issue. Like, I'm just so negative with them. I should just stop talking about them. Then we'll be good.
You're so self-deprecating.
That's some of my best humor, not going to lie. Man. But let's, switching from, the biggest surprise for the first half of the season, let's put our eyes on the second half of the season. Statement number 3, Donnie. The team with the most on the line in the last half of the season is blank.
Oh, boy. I look at this and I go, honestly, I'm going to say the two teams that last round we really, as we kind of went through the schedule makers, we went, this is their opportunity, the second half of the season. And that's Collingwood and Gold Coast.
Mm-hmm.
They have the most to play for because both these teams, legitimately, if you ask us at the start of the season, I don't think I know both of us, we sat in there. There's no way either of us had Collingwood or Gold Coast with a chance halfway through the season to have a chance to make finals.
No.
And both these teams have relatively favorable schedules when it comes to how they have a chance.
Well, technically, still the two of the easiest schedules win percentage wise, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's just kind of crazy to think about it, but it's like with Collingwood, it's like you're sitting here now. You have Essendon right now coming up here. You've got Melbourne this week. So you got the Queen's birthday game. This is your make it break. This is kind of your make or break it kind of measuring stick.
Mm-hmm.
You play close to Melbourne, or you somehow beat Melbourne, which again I'm not ruling 100% out. Maybe now.
Yeah.
I think again I'll tip it later, but I think I know who's going to go with it. But I'm much less confident now with some of the drama that's happened over the last week.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're Collingwood, even if you play this competitive, if this is under 3 goals, like this is 12, 2 goals or less, you take a lot of confidence going in to your bye week, and then you come out of your bye week and you get GWS. And then let me see. I'll pull up all of Collingwood's schedule.
Yeah, you need two, and you need a whole extra week to prepare for GWS. I know that.
I'll pad this just a little bit. But here's the best part. So after you play GWS, then you get a titanic matchup between you and Gold Coast. Like this could be the eliminator for who's the other team that gets there. And then here's your run: North Melbourne, Adelaide, Essendon, Port, Melbourne, Sydney, Carlton. So your last 3 games of the year, when you may need wins, might be the more difficult part of that when you got Melbourne, Sydney, and Carlton. Okay. But you already played Carlton. You already beat Carlton in the year, so you have a little bit of confidence, especially last game.
But that was the opener, right? Season opener.
No, Carlton plays Richmond at the start of the season.
That's right. Thank you.
These two just played each other a couple rounds ago.
That's right. I don't know why I kept on getting that game mixed up. It's weird.
Yeah, it's one of those you'd think it'd be an early season because it's such a big rivalry, but they put it towards the middle of the season. Now we switched to it. So the other team that we were looking at is the Gold Coast Suns. So we kind of already said Gold Coast has a pretty favorable schedule. So we look at it here. They get the Adelaide Crows this week, then Port Adelaide. Again, not an easy
like
task.
both those.
The Collingwood game. Then they get Richmond, Essendon, Brisbane, West Coast, Hawthorn, Geelong, North.
4 out of 5 it should be in the last bit of the season.
Though the one that I'm thanking my lucky stars over if I'm the Gold Coast Suns is North last game of the season. Because when you need 4 points last game of the year, and potentially Collingwood has Carlton, and that could potentially be to get into the finals, almost a guaranteed win against North versus a toughie against Carlton, you're licking your chops. Gold Coast has a ton to play for. Even Geelong, that game is up, and that game is going to be at up in the Gold Coast, up in Queensland. That's going to be a Metricon Stadium. That is a huge advantage for them, especially late in the season. That could potentially be there. You still have your Q clash, which is always a tough one. It's going to be at the GABA, but a lot of winnable games. Even the port game in a couple of weeks is still a winnable game for the Gold Coast Suns if they continue to play what they're playing. I see the Suns being the team that, as long as they win the games they're supposed to, steal maybe one that you're not supposed to, and you play close in the games that you probably should lose, I think Gold Coast can get in the Collingwood in 8th spot, because I think Richmond and Western Bulldogs still have some games that are going to be toughies. Richmond's the only team that would bother me as a Gold Coast or a Collingwood fans, because their schedule is not as difficult as I think some people would have thought. Really quickly, I'll pull that one up here.
They
get Port Adelaide this week, then Carlton, Geelong, West Coast, Gold Coast, North, Fremantle, Brisbane, Port, Hawthorn, Essendon. So again, Richmond's little run towards the end gives them 3 games. You should be pretty confident. Port Adelaide, a little bit, but Hawthorn, Essendon, especially by that time of the year, they're both out of the finals already. That's 2 very good winnable games. That gives you a good chance to get 8 points at the end of the year. The thing that as a Tigers fan I'd be a little worried about is the fact that you got to play Fremantle, you got to play Brisbane, you got to play Gold Coast, you got to play Geelong, you got to play Carlton. That's 5 difficult games that are not going to be easy games, especially as this season goes on. And a Port game that Port's playing for their lives twice now. over this.
Oh, poor Port, man.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I guess you could definitely be kicking good old Hinkley out of there. That's what it seems like.
These 3 schedules, Gold Coast, I think, is probably the most favorable out of all.
I love it. Gold Coast, if you take a look at Richmond, has the edge out of these 3 teams when it comes to percentage points. Richmond's up at 117 compared to Collingwood's 103, which is by far the lowest when it comes to current top 8 teams. The Gold Coast is sitting at about 108 right now, and I don't know why I said about, because they're exactly 108. But it feels like Collingwood has the biggest chances of dropping out. Gold Coast is going to have to get one up on Richmond. But man, if we're going to talk about a team I think the Suns could do it. And, obviously, step out on a limb being bold. It would not be the biggest surprise in the world if the Gold Coast Suns win the finals game this year. Because if they can get into the finals, they're a pesky team, annoying team to play against. And they have some legitimate talent at Rocket the forward. Gold Coast can win the finals game this year. I don't think that's a huge overreaction. Hey, shout out to you Gold Coast fans, all 42 of you. You've definitely gone up this year because it's been good.
No, I'd even give them more of a bump. I think they should be up over 50.
Over 50. Okay.
They're winning. Hey, they're winning.
Can I get 60?
They're winning classy. Yeah, I think 60, 65. I think is where I'd sit at them right now.
So if Gold Coast makes the finals,
they're on their way.
Gold Coast makes the finals. Is that 100 supporters?
Ooh. Yeah, I could see
that.
They've won some big games, which I think should double their total.
Call me crazy. If they win the finals game, Donnie, that's 300 fans right there.
That's triple whatever they
That's
have
300. Absolutely.
If
Hell,
they
could be 500.
150, 200, we got to triple it. So then it's 500, 600.
Hey, Gold Coast wins the premiership this year. They are breaking 10,000. Ooh.
We'll have to see. I mean, their membership's going up, and with that fun squad that they've got there, they're gonna be a fun team to watch.
I enjoy watching Gold Coast. I can't really say that last year or the year before. Gold Coast is a good game to watch, and I don't think. I just think that's kind of remarkable for them. Hell of a turnaround. But let's know your thoughts when it comes to What the Blink. What can the AFL do to increase fan attendance? Who is the biggest surprise team so far at the halfway point? And what team has the most on the line as we go into the last, 10 games for a lot of the teams here? But before we get to our tips for round 13, it's time for the greatest list in all of the 7 seas, and there's really only sea that one matters is the Pacific. I guess technically the Indian Ocean, because that's right there. You got, it's a good list, guys. Listen, Donnie, let's go, Donnie. Yeah.
All right, so team of the week again. These are the weeks that are always fun because with less teams playing, it makes it a little bit more interesting. Sometimes trying to find guys that are there because you don't want to award mediocrity. You want performances to get there. But thankfully, I was relatively proud. 6 games had a lot of really good performers. We'll jump right into it. Team of the week. Start with the defenders. Again, the Western Bulldogs may have went down with Bailey Dale, again, continuing another really strong season for the Western Bulldogs. Bailey Dale and Caleb Daniels just keep finding ways to put up statistics and try to make impacts for Western Bulldogs team that I think is just a little bit wayward as of right now. Gold Coast, Will Powell. Again, Gold Coast playing exciting footy. TO Stadium was absolutely fantastic to see them play up in Darwin and to see the Suns play well. Fantastic. We go to it. Melbourne's Angus Brayshaw. Yes, the Melbourne Demons may have lost, but this gentleman is having one hell of a season. He's moved back there after Christian Salem went down and has still been really rock solid. I potentially could see him move back to the wing now that Salem is back on the defensive line for the Melbourne Demons. But again, another great season. Hawthorns' James Sicily, again, leading in intercept marks, has been the backbone of this Hawthorn defense. A defense that I think is going to solidify over these next few years because they got a lot of really good young talent. They're going to be fun to watch them play defense because they're going to be stingy as the years go on, as these guys grow up. Frio's Hayden Young, again, you get another big win over Brisbane. I got to tip you, especially one of your best performers on the defensive side is Hayden Young. And Brisbane's consistent, really solid performer Daniel Rich. Yes, he had a couple of whoopsie moments trying to guard Michael Frederick from the Freo Dockers, but as he's showing, that is not an easy task at all. We jump into the guts in the midfield, and again, I got to watch this live, and boy, was it fun. Yes, he was doing it to us, but I got to give him credit, and that is Melbourne's Max Gawn. What an incredible performance by Max Gawn, trying to drag his team over the line, but just fell a little bit short. But again, hell of a performance by Max Gawn in that one. We jump into the guts with the midfields. Tom Liberatore kicks a couple of goals, keeps the Doggies in that game against Geelong. I think played really, really well. It was difficult. They kind of struggled a little bit in the midfield, but Liberatore had a really good game. Mitch Duncan from the Geelong Cats with another great game. Tons of disposals, put some scoreboards, several really good passes in this game. So Mitch Duncan, Adelaide's Rory Laird. Adelaide again showing why West Coast is the worst team in the league, that they found a way to be consistent, which is not something that you've been attached with Adelaide very much this season. West Coast, I'll give you a little bit of love here. Andrew Gaff with a pretty damn good game here. Somebody playing at least somewhat decent footy for the West Coast Eagles, so going to give him a little bit of love. And Fremantle's Caleb Sarong, another great performance. Angus Brayshaw is kind of a honorable mention in this, but I think Caleb Sarong had a quietly really good game for this one that I thought was absolutely fantastic. Again, the goal kickers, forwards, I mean, you kick a bag of 6, it's hard not to put you right in there, and that's Geelong's Jeremy Cameron. Adelaide's Tex Walker comes back and has a really good game. He is continuing to show why Adelaide really needs to sign this guy back up to their team.
And that's just short-term, long-term. Long-term,
at least
Adelaide. Come on.
2 years. I don't think you need to go more than that. I mean, I think he's close to near the end, but I think a couple years let him help progress this young team. Hawthorns' Mitch Lewis, again, another good game, and an absolute dandy game against Collingwood in the wet. Absolutely fantastic. Brisbane, Zach Bailey, he nearly pulled that Lions team over the line just himself, playing absolutely incredible. And then last but not least, Frio's Michael Frederick. A fantastic game for the speedster from Fremantle. Unfortunately, he's going to miss this week due to suspension, but an absolutely fantastic game there. On the bench, Sydney's Jake Lloyd, again, finally kind of getting his normal distribution of the footy, kicking the ball well. He had a few struggles early in the season, but really coming on strong as the season is going on. Fremantle's James H. with another great game for the Fremantle Dockers. In the ruck, I'm going to give a tip of my cap to the former Swan, and that's Darcy Cameron of the Collingwood Magpies, playing really well in Grundy's absence. for the Rock. And last but not least, forward gets a rising star, kicks 3 goals, shows that Buddy Who, as some of the Swans fans have jokingly said, and that's Logan Mcdonald, is the final forward for the team of the week. They're a fantastic team. There's some great performances, but a little bit more difficult to find those great performances for the teams of the week. So you kind of had to find where you had a nice impact by a guy there. So that is Coach Hess's team of the week.
And with that being said, it's time to wrap things up with our tips for the round. We got 6 games, 6 interesting games as well. A round where it's really easy to go with the favorites. But are we actually going to do that? Let's go ahead and hop in because, of course, it's starting us off for our bright and early on a Thursday morning and Thursday night for you Aussies. It's going to be Richmond and Port Adelaide. Tipsters on the AFL tipping website have this 89% for Richmond. The odds are also in Richmond's favor. I like them at the MCG as well.
I have Richmond in this one. MCG, and the fact that Sam Hayes is not going over on that things means they are going to be playing with a forward-ish ruck in Jeremy Finlayson, who I think is going to get bossed around by Nank, which is going to give that almost full-strength Richmond midfield and Dusty a lot of the footy, and I think it's really going to hurt because eventually Port Adelaide's defense is going to crumble, unfortunately. So I have the Port Adelaide Power getting the big 4 points, or the Richmond Tigers getting a big 4 points in this one.
When that been plot twist. Next one, we got also at the MCG. Yeah, I'm not tipping Essendon. Carlton's taking this.
Carlton in this one, just I think Essendon will make us a little bit, but I don't like Essendon's lack of defense in the midfield and the way Carlton bosses the midfield with their clearance play. It's just going to be an avalanche for this. Yes, they don't have Harry Mackay, but Curnow is playing out of his skin right now. He's got a bye week. They're coming back nice and healthy. Carlton in this one, and I hope it's not big, but it could be if Carlton can get going.
Mm-hmm. Now, for Freo, it's time for them to put a little bit of icing on themselves right now when it comes to grand final positions, or it's just finals positions for now, maybe when it comes to grand final contention, and also just when it comes to, not having 2 great wins and blowing it to Hawthorn. That would be a horrible thing to do at this point. I'll take Freo in this one as well. Shout out to the prison for other opposing teams known as Optus Stadium.
I'm going to go Fremantle, but I've heard talk there's a potential for rain, which makes me
maybe
a little more leery. But Nat 5 coming back. Yes, they lose Frederick, but I think Nat 5 steps right into Frederick's place, which will be perfectly fine. Hawthorn's a tricky bunch. They're not going to go away. They've got some strength in the midfield, so I think this game is going to be a tiny bit closer than some people think. Mm-hmm. Keep an eye on it. Like I said, keep an eye on the weather a lot on this one, because
it's a big one there.
That could really flip this game on its head. I'm gonna go Fremantle on this one.
Well,
I'm thinking this one's a tiny bit closer than some people think.
So Nat 5 kicks a lot of behinds. Fremantle this year isn't good in the rain. So what's going to happen if it rains? Nat 5 kicks 5 goals in 0 behinds, and Freo wins the game based off of that performance. PEMDAS, right? Opposites cancel out. Yeah, let's go with that. I'll have some hope for you guys over Freo. I hope you don't blow this, because that'd be horrible. But next game, let's hop on over to the GABA. We got the Brisbane Lions and the St. Kilda Saints. Brisbane at a 92% tipping rate on this one. But here is my bold take of the round, because St. Kilda is going to take advantage of a horrible Brisbane Lions defense. They're going to actually be able to outpace them because they're a better team than the Giants. They're going to implement the Giants game plan that we saw a couple rounds ago. And Max King kicks 5.
Well, I hope they don't implement GWS's, because then that means they only have one good quarter.
Sorry, they implement GWS's first quarter game plan for 4 quarters.
Okay, alrighty. I love your optimism on that. Here's one little thing that I saw brought up, and I kind of agree with it. It is winter in Melbourne, which means it's less than 10 for several days now in good old Melbourne when it comes to Celsius. The GABA, last time I checked, was somewhere close to 20-25. So it is pretty warm up at the GABA, and this is a relatively interesting start time. So for me, I think the weather, I think the fact that Chris Fagan kind of now has even more that ability to go, hey, pull your heads in. You just lost a game that you showed our weaknesses to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be a great kind of balancer game. St. Kilda is going to make this one close because Paddy Ryder and Rowan Marshall are going to have their way, even with Oscar McInerney. If McInerney can even it up, I think he kind of takes away that advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I think the midfielders are even. I'd almost take a little bit more towards Brisbane. The question is, can Brisbane get their offense going enough to neutralize the fact that their defense has been so leaky? If St. Kilda gets up, I think you're right. If St. Kilda can get a lead, they can put the fear of God into Brisbane and may get them tight. I'm going to tip Brisbane because the GABA. I think the GABA will make that big a difference, which is really weird saying. But I'm going to go off the fact that the GABA is going to be warm, it's going to be slick, and I think it's going to mess with St. Kilda's style just the littlest bit. I think that's really going to help this Brisbane Lions kind of get off the schneid, kind of pull themselves back into the form that they really want. So I'm going to tip the Lions in this one, but this is going to be a dandy. I think this one could be game of the round for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited about that one. One game where I'm cautiously optimistic on is the GWS chance in North Melbourne over at Marvel. I'm tipping GWS because I will lose all bit of hope if they actually lose this one.
I'm going to tip GWS in this one. GWS has got some good foot soldiers coming back into the game at just the right time. North Melbourne is absolutely atrocious right now, fighting with their young superstar after a gaffe on social media. I just don't like the momentum here. I'm going to tip GWS in this one. I just don't think North Melbourne has the guns to be able to keep up with a GWS team that's getting healthy right now.
And the last game of the round is going to be a good old throwdown at the MCG between Collingwood and the Dees. I was actually really tempted to choose Collingwood is my bold tip of the round over St. Kilda. I just don't think this Melbourne team loses 3 in a row. I think that's what a lot of this comes down to. I could see it happening, though. I could really see it happening. I'll tip Melbourne until, I can't anymore, though.
With all of the drama this week, this game became much more difficult to tip as the last 48 hours have gone. I'm going to stay with my tip in Melbourne, but I want to see how Collingwood comes out. If Collingwood can come out like a house on fire and scare the Dees a little bit, could it affect the Dees to the point where Collingwood could find a way to pull off another big upset and really kind of throw a lot of people off? Because I think a lot of people, this is your balancer game. This is your game. Collingwood's susceptible, nor that they don't have as dangerous a forward line.
This is still a test of a game.
It's still a tough game.
Yeah.
Because Collingwood's pressure is around what Fremantle and what Sydney can pull, and if they do that, we showed it can help a team knock off the D's. It's still no May. Melksham is out now. How is their forward line going to go? I'm going to tip the D's only on consistency. I think they finally get their what together and get off the schneid. But this is dangerous.
Tough pass going against the greatest American to ever grace Australia in Mason Cox, who's just unstoppable when he's on.
All right. So it'll be fun, but again, the first 10 minutes of the first quarter, I think it's going to be an indicator in how this game goes. If Collingwood can get up on Melbourne and put a little bit of fear into them, I want to see how they handle it. If Melbourne can get up, I don't think Collingwood has the scoring depth to be able to come back like Sydney did a little bit. So this will be fun one. Tipping Melbourne, but this one's super intriguing on Monday morning.
Of course, it's all great until Mason Cox kicks 4 goals and wins it for the Collingwood Magpies. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is our tips for round 13 of the AFL season. Let's see if I can go another 6 for 6. I just want to, if I could catch up to Brad on this round, I will be super stoked on that one. What, Don, I'm a game back, you're 4 games back? 6. Okay.
The St. Kilda game could be your saving grace.
Exactly.
That's going to be your saving grace.
That's how I make up a game. It's the only way. Unless Brad wants to be bold and tip Collingwood for some reason.
No, we'll have to see. I don't know. We'll definitely have to see how that goes.
I'm excited.
The last few weeks, he's tipped the same as me. So
yeah, that has me infuriating, man. just staying tied the whole time. That's a bit of a bummer. But what isn't it's a bummer over, but it's not a bummer because you guys were able to tune in to our round 12 breakdown. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your tips. What is going on with the AFL, and can it be saved when it comes to the umpiring, when it comes to attendance, when it comes to the Dees struggles, and especially Flagmantle, because you guys are going crazy. Frio fans feel like Carlton fans at the beginning of the season, except one team is still hanging on a little bit better than the other one. But of course, you can catch us everywhere. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Rumble. Occasionally, we're on Twitch as well. So go ahead, subscribe, follow us, hit us up on our socials on Twitter and Instagram at Fourth and Long Media. Follow Donnie at Coach Hess40 on both sites as well. You can find all of our stuff at thefourthandlong.com, and make sure to do yourselves a favor, thefourthandlong.com/apparel. I'll have all those links in the descriptions over on Twitter, Instagram, and all that, because you're going to want to get your hands on some of this. All right, that's all I gotta say when it comes to the new merchandise that is out. I can't wait to show it off. It's still in the mail. Sometimes it takes a little bit, especially when we do ship to Australia as well. So go ahead, get your hands on that. And Donnie, your thoughts on raising the roof in one word or phrase.
Oh boy, raising the roof. Nostalgic, because raising the roof is a very nostalgic type of thing. So
I like it.
Very nostalgic.
I had to find a way to talk about the 50s without actually talking about the 50s. Because no one wants to hear about it anymore. But ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, raise the roof wherever you're at, as long as you're not in front of umpire, or maybe do it now and just don't do it abusively towards a man. Can you abusively raise the roof? If you can if you can abusively raise the roof, send me a video, because I need to see what that looks like. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you after round 13 of the AFL season.